Hello, mis cielitos, and welcome back. Coco is here, and I am continuing Raging Loop, where hopefully we will be finishing up this story. She regained consciousness, but couldn't properly process reality yet. On the surface, it looked like everything was normal. She couldn't realize that there was no conformity in her awareness, and that something was really off. It was night. Outside, the train car was pure darkness, and the lights inside only seemed to emphasize it. Hisako Mamiya instantly assumed that she was riding on a late-night train, returning from work that tired her so much she'd fallen asleep on the ride. She clung to that story for a few seconds, but as her thoughts became more clear, she became more pale. Had she slept too long? Had she been sleeping here for a whole few hours? What happened to Yasunaga Oribe? She abandoned the boy who needed her help. What a horrible thing to do. Hisako quickly dug into her bag. The two phones she had both said it was 4 minutes past midnight, and that there were no missed calls or texts. Not only that, but both of them had said that they were out of service range. Out of range? On a train line? Ooh, see, I really like this setup. Especially as someone who... I think transportation via train is my favorite. I love trains so much. She then realized another thing. This wasn't a loop line. If she overslept, she would have been awakened and kicked out. Even if that didn't happen, she would have been caught up in the rush. No way she could have kept sleeping then. In that case, what was happening here? She naturally assumed the reverse, i.e., that her meeting with Yasunaga was just a dream. She'd gotten drunk, got on the last train, and that was when reality ended. She began having a dream where she met Yasunaga Oribe and let him stay over. That wouldn't explain everything. She didn't have her personal phone with her. Unless she dropped it somewhere, she'd lended it to Yasunaga. Then there was the shopping list she'd made. It was hard to argue that she made it while sleeping. She definitely got on a daytime train and had somehow arrived here. A train with no one else but her. Something wasn't right. Hisako finally realized that she was in an unnatural situation. Basically, something paranormal. Unlike a certain swindling author, when faced with the paranormal, normal people felt only fear. It's finally happened, huh? She licked her lips. Hisako had been dreaming of seeing something paranormal her whole life. Even though she knew by now that there were always just people behind the curtain, she'd still chase the darkness. And this time, she'd finally gotten what she wanted. She'd been waiting for this for long, and she was ready. She prepared and put up a front. It was time for her to show off her skills as an ex-occult writer. She stood up. Her car was the fourth, the same as when she'd gotten on. It looked like a normal train if you ignored that there were no other passengers. Hisako moved through the car and opened a door. There was a soft curtain wriggling at the connection, and it seemed to visualize loud but organized sounds and vibrations. The train was still running. To the third car. All was the same. To the second car. All was the same. Uh-huh. Yeah, it looks about the same to me, sure. All was the same. The train was still running. To the first car. All was the same. All was the same. The train was still running. All was the same. All was the same. The first car was the front. Hisako covered her mouth. Even though she hadn't eaten much since morning, she was hungry. In fact, she felt an intense urge to vomit. As she went onwards, she became aware that there was some sort of an anomaly that affected the nervous system. Her thoughts became dull, and her paralyzed sense of danger made her unable to realize it. Her physical condition was just getting worse and worse. Urge to vomit, headache. She finally realized that something was even more wrong than she'd thought. Lack of oxygen? Odorless gas? The journalist who looked into cases of carbon-based suicide had told her that carbon monoxide poisoning made people fall asleep and just die. This is bad. There had to be someone at the front. The train wouldn't be moving otherwise. Hoping for help, Sako staggered over ahead. She felt like she could fall at the slightest curve. How long would this train keep going forward? Upon arriving at the front, she looked through the window into the conductor's seat. There was no one there. Or rather, she couldn't perceive it. The part of the scenery through the window where the driver should be seemed to be cut out. She couldn't see it, as if she was actually blind to just that part. Though it didn't look like there was something there, it was probably worse. That place itself just didn't exist. Basically, it was a space that rejected the laws of the physical world. Something fatal for human perception. She quickly looked away. Her vision returned, but the car wasn't the same as before. It looked like it'd been left underwater for half a century. There was rust, tears, and rot everywhere. The doors were dirty. The seats were torn. The walls had eroded, and the windows were covered in dirt. However, none of that could compare to the advertisements hanging here and there. After all, they weren't in Japanese. It wasn't the alphabet or Hangul either, nor was it Hebrew or Arabic either. The text seemed like warped, heretical, evil hieroglyphs that couldn't have been created by a human hand. It made her realize that she'd been seeing them for a while, but only found them suspicious now. No! No! Hisako's courage was quickly overwhelmed by fear and panic. Those who only knew wild beasts from zoos didn't know the fear of being inside those cages. The fear filling her throat and crawling up her skin was just too great to resist. However, she could overcome it just enough to create a goal for herself. Escape. She had to get out. With only that thought in mind, she closed in on the nearby door. Above her, there was a rusty metallic cover hiding an emergency lever. The instructions on it were written in the same cryptic hieroglyphs, so she looked away. For a moment, she almost felt like they extended like tentacles and wrapped around her fingers. She forcefully opened the cover, moaning because of the tearing pain in her hand, and pulled the rusty lever. There was an alarm. She knew it was because of what she did, but she felt like it was a scream of the train-shaped yokai. With a high-pitched, wet, annoying, lowly, belittling, insulting sound, the train began to slow down. A train broadcast? It was a male voice. It sounded somewhat monotone and sleepy, just like the train. She couldn't understand a word of what it said. Unable to bear it, she finally vomited, but even then she didn't let go of the emergency lever. Her fist turned pale from how hard she held it. Hurry. Hurry up and stop. Hoping for just that, she directed her cloudy eyes into the darkness outside, where she saw a white, square, luminous object. It was a station name. A station name in the Japanese language. It was there for just a moment, but she read it. The next moment, the train shook. Hisako almost fell and the train stopped. The door opened up. Upon realizing that, he noticed that the other train cars were as clean as she remembered. She couldn't trust her senses anymore. Breathing raggedly, she made her way outside. The voice from before followed her. Emergency stop at Kisaragi Station. That was close. She couldn't see the outside well, but she realized that only a small part of the first car was next to the platform. If she walked out from any other car, she would have fallen on the tracks. Feeling hard concrete on her knees, she tried to stabilize her breathing, which was when her surroundings became dark. The bright lights from the train had vanished. She turned around and saw the train, lying there like the corpse of a large beast with its jaws hanging open. It still made some mechanical sounds, but she felt like it would fall completely silent soon, like a cadaver. She didn't know why the train had to shut down right after an emergency stop. She didn't even know if there was a reason. Once her breathing stabilized, she stood up. There was no light sources anywhere. She'd concluded this was a platform because of the sign she'd seen from inside. Ignoring that, this was just a concrete ramp. Even empty stations had nightlights. What was this place? Where am I? He already had info, however. The station's name was Kisaragi, and it was in hiragana. It fit the Japanese announcement she heard. Kisaragi wasn't a station she knew. It still didn't look like a proper train platform, but if it wasn't that, then what? I guess there's no point considering such things when it comes to the paranormal. But she quickly remembered that there was no guarantee that this was supernatural. Looking back at all the phenomena so far, it was likely that this was just an illusion. This was some station late at night, and she was just incapable of acknowledging anyone else here. However, she had to act based on what her eyes told her. All the horror characters who thought they went insane were fated to die. She needed light, so she took out her phone. When she did so, something made her widen her eyes. The battery was almost empty. No, it could last 2 days without charging, and it was relatively new. It could be just that too much time passed, but no. She concluded upon looking at the other phone. It ran out of battery faster, but somehow had more than the other. And both of them were out of service range. She'd thought she'd escaped trouble when she left the train, but that idea was shallow. Maybe it would have been better to just stay in the fourth car. Or maybe I escaped the trouble but ended up stuck in some abandoned line in the mountains. It was best to believe that something was wrong, but it was best to avoid extreme assumptions. She figured she had to look around a bit more. She took the phone with more battery left and lifted it up. The weak light illuminated the platform and a rusty fence. There was nothing but a dense hedge beyond it, and there was no way to tell what was further. She directed the light up. There was a roof, a really small one, like ones used in bus stops. It was also aged, but not as much as the train. There had been a schedule on the support here, but it was torn off, apparently. She looked at the text and numbers that were still there. It was no doubt Japanese. Was this actually an abandoned station? She lit up the rails. It was a one-sided platform, and beyond the rails, there was nothing but a grassy cliff. Further in, there was a ticket booth and a small station-like building. She thought that she saw a dim light beyond it. As her eyes got used to the dark, she could finally differentiate between the dimly lit, cloudy sky, the lights in her hands, and the light outside. There was something there. The station sign, perhaps? Hisako walked by the ticket gate and directed her light to the other side. Darkness, or rather the outside, was so vast that the backlight couldn't reach it. Woo! That meant she could leave. There were no workers at the ticket booth. It'd be too scary if there were. She shook her head, went forward, and looked inside the station building through the broken window. There was no one inside. There was a mess, but it didn't look like there was anything significant there. It looked like it'd been abandoned after a thorough move. Nothing more, nothing less. All that was left now was finding out what that light was. She'd expected to find just a station sign, but what she actually found beyond the building surprised her. It was a vending machine. Coffee, fruit juice, sports drinks, green tea. For some reason, most were warm, and there were even brands she knew well. Hisako sighed in relief. Finally, she came across a piece of the civilization she knew. At the same time, she became hungry and thirsty, and the puking had given her a sore throat and stomach. Additionally, it was also summer. The air around her was warm, and the tension made her sweat a lot. She wanted to drink some water. She She took out 100 yen from the wallet in her bag and put it in the machine. She pressed on the button for the mineral water, and it fell to the tray. Hisako stuck her hand in and felt the cold of the bottle. It was the standard European hard water. She opened it and brought it to her mouth. I would be scared. At that moment, she wondered what had happened to her caution from before. She didn't know what this place was. It could have been exactly like that train. There was no better time to question her senses than now. So why did she choose to drink something from here? She knew better than the usual person. That eating the food from a different world was an expression of willingness to become a pride of that world and reject the old one. Before her throat could enjoy the water, she threw away the bottle and vomited again. With that, she was assaulted by a powerful dizziness and headache. She spat and tried to keep herself together. Then, she looked at the vending machine. It was no longer just that. Ooh, that is very pretty looking, but frightening. It was a gathering of creeping vines on a stone wall. The leaves were all bigger than her arm, and she could see it clearly now, for it shone. It was a white closer to blue. It was a beautiful blue-hot flame casting a light you would only see in places like nuclear reactors. It brought about destructive energy that didn't allow life. It propagated and diffused and spread maliciously. The plant bore fruit. Hisako unhesitantly looked at the gel-like fruit, colored malicious blue and filthy red. One of them was right next to her feet, and its fruit juice was spread out on the granite-like floor she was standing on. She just ingested the juice of a fruit from a plant that was not of her world. She spit it out, though. Or did she? The surroundings no longer tried to hide their evil nature. The building was exactly the same as before, however the base material had become granite. It was covered in the same cryptic hieroglyphs as she'd seen in the train, and it made her scream a little. The train was now all rusty and rotten, like the interior of the first car was. It was like a metal ship that had washed ashore. It seemed to symbolize the defeat of the human mind, or the victory of the evil lurking here. No way! Struggling to keep her footing, she looked for proof that she wasn't going insane. However, that hope was shattered when she saw her phone screen. It showed only static, a field of unintelligible black and white. No, 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 no! Everything beside her was going insane. No, even her own things were like this. How could she make sense of this? You couldn't even look at a mirror now. Though panicking again, she couldn't throw away her phones. They were her only weapon after all. She worked the phone as best as she could. She even tried to do something on the other, almost dead phone. She wanted it to connect to somebody. Anybody! Contact button, up and down buttons, call button, no luck. She couldn't connect no matter how hard she tried, but that didn't stop her. The small bit of rationality she had told her it was pointless, but she repeated it regardless, for she had nothing else. You're sleeping too long, Mamiya-san. He was calling Hisako every 20 minutes or so, but he had no luck with either of her phones. It was close to evening now, so it was best for him to return by himself. Certain she wouldn't answer, he called the Me Deadlines phone. Having no luck there, he then tried the Me Connections, knowing it was pointless. Normally, there was a ringtone followed by an announcement that the target phone wasn't in service range, but there was nothing. No call sound, no voice, Nothing. Curious, Yasunaga... Hello? Said that. There was no response. Is this Mamiya-san? It's me, Yasunaga Oribe. I'm done for the day, so can I go back? He said what he wanted. Suddenly. My, oh my. My, oh my, oh my. It appears I was right to give you the charm. It was a voice he shouldn't have heard there. Haru-chan? Huh?
That name is unfitting whenever I'm around Ni-chan.
Oh, sorry, Okami-sama. I mean, God. How did it connect to you anyway? With the wolf-killing incident, he found out that Haru Makishima's game wasn't just an act. He hadn't seen her act like that himself since that time, but Chikumochi might have. However, Yasunaga knew that this entity was someone to be revered and loved. Anyway, she was too poor to have a phone, so there was absolutely no way he could have called her.
I'm not calling you.
What a strange response.
I simply used the charm I imbued with myself and gave you to make you a temporary mirror. You can only hear me through that phone because it seems natural to you.
The explanation was a bit convoluted, but he understood it. So it's something science can't explain. Something to do with symbolism and meaning.
You're as smart as always, I see. Like that city dweller. I feel a slight bit of regret now. Anyway, hang up right now.
Huh? But we wouldn't be able to talk then.
I take it back, you're an idiot.
Where did that come from?
I'm saying that I'm not actually calling you and we can talk without the phone. Hang up already or you'll die.
He understood that she was telling him he was in a bad situation and quickly hung up. I did.
Well done.
What did you mean I'd die?
You can calm down now.
I need an explanation.
I'm not good at details.
Please try.
You called someone who is so far you cannot reach them, yes?
Yes. He was confused by the "so far you cannot reach them" part, but he nodded. Hisako's house wasn't far away, and phones didn't usually mind distance that much. It wasn't an international call or anything.
A distant point and a close point happened to call each other at the same time. It created a triangle distorting in reverse. With 3 points, worlds that do not usually interact can create a boundary. It is quite the rude and sinister realm. Thus, it summons the badgers of Yomi.
God's words were too hard even for him to understand. But he did remember that God had once been called Mujina, a badger. It's not like you, I assume.
We are alike but different. They are creatures that were born out of human darkness through impure contracts, and went on to fall into true darkness. It could attack you through the sharpest edge of the boundary. Are you not glad you have me?
He really didn't feel like he'd escaped some sort of danger. However, God's roundabout words were enough for him to learn a certain truth. A distant point and 2 points that were near. If standing on the triangle made by this was dangerous, it meant that Yasunaga was standing on it too. Where the 2 other points the phones Hisako had? Mamiya-san is that far away now?
Indeed, that is as certain as the sea breeze is salty.
Should a mountain god really make comparisons like that?
The sashimi at Atami was delicious.
Now's not the time to be a glutton, Haru-chan. Where is Mamiya-san now? What did you mean when you said that physical laws don't work there?
Do not call me that. It's distracting. But I am impressed how well you understand this. My mysteriousness as a god is wasted on you. That woman is in purgatory.
That word wasn't in his vernacular. He instantly turned around. With an empty expression, Yasunaga walked up to a PC in the library and awakened it from its sleep. He turned on the browser, accessed the search site, and typed in Purgatory. Since the ruined excavation book he'd wanted to read was being lent to an American school, he spent his time here reading a technical guide and using a PC. As a result, he'd already come to understand computer interfaces, networks, the relevant base concepts, and how to use them. He looked at the search results and opened the Purgatory entry on a dictionary. The realm between heaven and hell. Christianity? Kind of. He talked into the inactive phone again.
I did not have that god in mind, but yes, it is something along those lines. Such spaces in between realms are everywhere. To arrive to a god, people must pass mountains, darkness, and dreams. They are wastelands where fragments of dreams are akin to grass. Humans must pass them to face God.
So Mamiya-san is dying.
That is not wrong, but not quite right.
Did she get in an accident?
No. She was brought to Purgatory alive and well.
Why did that happen?
Being spirited away was not uncommon in the past.
We're not in the past.
If there are gods who fool and kidnap mankind, they must be fearful and hide by mingling with human settlements. This one in particular is...
So you know what hit her?
Are you saying you would save her, Nii-chan?
Yes, I'm in debt to her.
Will you extol me?
I'll bring you lots of souvenirs.
Excellent. Use the machine. By doing so, you should be able to send a voice to her without using the paths of this land.
Because someone's listening to us.
What a scary man you are.
I just understand things well. He could always bring himself ahead of the rest with his inhuman thought processes. This might have been due to the Higuchi blood in his veins. They were known to be good at government, planning, and tactics. Though he was not as extreme as Chikamochi, the three-legged crow and servant of God, Yasunaga was no doubt a genius. Then, this is really...
Indeed. You have to contact her through a country without God.
Suddenly the phone next to her ear rang, and Hisako, face wet with tears and snot, stared at the screen in shock. She could read the text. She looked around and found the anomalies were nowhere in sight. Hisako wouldn't let that fool her, though. This place was definitely unnatural. Or perhaps she herself was going insane. It was impossible to assert that the paranormal was just a delusion. More importantly, the phone. It was an email. It was from an unregistered free mail address. Upon seeing the name before the @ mark, Yasunaga, she gasped loudly. With shaking fingers, she snapped open the email. I pray you aren't filtering this domain. I assume you aren't, since the phone you gave me didn't have that setting. Due to certain circumstances, I found out that you might be in danger, so I am emailing you to confirm. You are in a place you shouldn't be. Everything you see is dangerous. Don't do much, and please send me more details. I will consider how to deal with it. Use the address given here. It should work. There was a copy-paste of a very long URL there. She tried to open it, but couldn't access it because the phone wasn't in service range. Then how did I get the email? As she thought about that, she got another one. I forgot to mention, I'm sending this email from a foreign server. It seems that only networks in Japan are blocked. That's why you cannot access the local phone services and networks. The site I linked is foreign. Please open it using the internet. If you don't know how to do that, please wait while I give you instructions. Hisako was dumbfounded. Had he lied that he didn't know how to use a phone? It actually felt that he knew computers and networks even better than her. Anyway, she knew that Japanese phone networks were separate services provided by the carriers. So that was the reason why she couldn't access it. Hisako chose the URL again and picked the option to open it in the browser. Success! It was a very crude, simple website. There were some Cyrillic letters at the top. Probably an explanation along with a text form and a button which was probably used to send the text. A web chat page? That meant she had to enter her nickname. She tried to input her own name. Oh, I was just about to say, maybe don't use your real name. Because, yeah. People like to nab otherworldly creatures like to nab those. And she realized that she couldn't remember it. She's here! Yasunaga had already logged in as Yasu and repeatedly pressed the refresh button. Upon seeing the new person join, he raised his voice. But the person who logged in was called Okek. Was it a glitch? Did the phone display it wrong? But at that moment... Help! A short yet heavy message was displayed. What kind of place are you in? Kisaragi Station. I looked it up, but it doesn't seem to exist. It probably just looks like a station. Don't let it fool you. I know. I can feel that I'm in a weird place. I sometimes can't even tell what's real or not. It's bad. I can't even remember my own name. That is bad. He talked to God about this while preparing, and that got him a warning from the library. They would take the phone away if he used it again. He had to be careful about using it. But he more or less already found out what he had to do. It was bad because of the warnings that God had given him. Don't drink or eat anything in the other world. Don't forget your own name. Don't turn around if chased. You are Hisako Mamiya-san. Hisako Mamiya. Say it and remember it. Hisako Mamiya. Yeah, that's me. Thanks. Don't eat anything. I almost ate a weird fruit. What? Are you okay? I spat it out. Was that good enough? What if it was just a bite? What if a bite of it was fatal? But then again, if she didn't actually accept it, maybe it was just fine. It was probably a question of mentality. Tell me what Kisaragi Station is like. It took a while for her to respond. There's a single set of rails. No workers. It's all dark and cloudy. There's a vending machine. The train stopped nearby. I got here by going to Tokyo. After I bought some water at the vending machine and almost drank it before spinning out, everything changed, and it became like this warped, weird temple. And I started feeling sick. It happened on the train too. It became a mess, and I saw weird text. Apparently these places change depending on the observer. It's the concepts that matter. Why do you know so much about this? I'll tell you once you're back. We need to focus on the situation. You're in purgatory. All places where God exists can be escaped. Huh? Where's Virgil? Where's Beatrice? And going to God means dying, doesn't it? He doesn't understand what she's talking about, so he looked it up. It was from a classical work called Divine Comedy. He was impressed by how knowledgeable she was. God, I love that book. Or set of books. I'll lead you through it. It's possible to save you if I can get there. Trust me. I don't really get it, but okay. You also might just be imagining that you don't feel so good. Try lighting a fire to feel better. I don't have a lighter, and I can handle this for now. Okay, now I had this idea. If purgatory is between heaven and hell, shouldn't they be the previous or the latter stations? I see. Good idea, but I don't know from where I got on this Hell Heaven tour. I don't know the details, but did it seem like things would get worse if you kept riding? It did. It might have been a train to hell. Then maybe you should try heading back to the previous station. The train doesn't work, right? Right, but I don't want to ride it again anyway. Can you follow the rails on foot? I really trust you. I'm not 100% certain. Tell me if there's any new info. All right. I just saw the moon. Just so you know, it's 6 in the evening here. You're joking! Is the flow of time different there? That's not what I mean. This is bad. What is? Please respond! She really did see the moon. There was a space in the clouds covering the sky, and the reddish moon peeked through it. It was in its first quarter, a half moon. Though it wasn't bright, it had a powerful presence, and seemed to shine over all the platform. She just realized. The strange, unknown structure she couldn't see in the darkness had been right on top of the station. For a moment, it seemed to be a light hanging strangely high. But that was no light source. It was a giant lens that gathered the moonlight. There were also metal mirrors around, and they all occasionally released a light akin to the moon's. They were probably there to help the lens gather moonlight through focused reflection. It moved despite there being no wind. The more immediate problem was the fact that the unnatural device focused the moonlight into a ray of light. That created a dot on Hisako's chest. The redness filled her with fear, but then she jumped back, feeling that she was being targeted on purpose. It was like a moment from a movie where a vile sniper trained their laser sight on the protagonist. The light didn't follow Hisako. Instead, it went away from her and on the platform to target the train. Suddenly, like a bit of ice melting under a laser, the train lost its false appearance. The new-looking train instantly became a crumbling, rusty wreck. And then it finally exposed its true form. She instinctively knew that the new appearance wasn't harmless to the sane world of men she knew. That moonlight was no light of judgment. And the moon was not the moon she knew. It was the evil moon of a different realm. Its power was to return things to their true forms. That was the light and the device. For a moment, below the pillars supporting the lens, she thought she saw a silhouette, which was either a small human or a gigantic amphibian. She no longer was in a situation where her eyes could be trusted. Oh. It looks partly draconic and partly arboreal, which is a very interesting combination. Very cool combination. I really like this image. The train had began to melt into a soft, transparent, yet still metallic material. It had chemifluorescence, the anomalous quality of the fruits. If Hisako had any knowledge in developmental biology, she would have compared it to the cellular change that happened during differentiation, which took place during the start of life or regeneration. Her impression of this event was more straightforward. It looked like a pupa going through metamorphosis. What was once a train was now standing. It was an extremely large beast. From head to toe, it had become a transparent body that could support its own immense flesh and bone. The white, slimy skin quickly became a red, purple-colored jelloid that spread throughout. Breaking through the bark-like material and spewing lots of mucus, the object grew branches, legs with multiple joints. They were small compared to its body, but they had the numbers. It grew more and more of these legs. And once it was done with that, the creature looked like a screw pine she'd seen in Okinawa. Screw pine. Let me look that up. Screw pine. Oh. Okay. I never knew that was a name for those. Right, sorry, got a bit lost there. Just looking at that information. And once it was done with that, the creature looked like a screw pine she'd seen in Okinawa. It felt like a malicious, heretical caricature of a strange tree that grew countless roots. That probably wasn't the best comparison. The thing was by no means a peaceful plant. This was a vile, gluttonous animal that lived only to eat and reproduce. Partially on reflex, she recorded a summary of her thoughts on her phone. Even though the extreme fear and shock had numbed her mind, she was well trained enough to pull that off. She looked down and saw the phone vibrate. Excuse me! She looked down and saw the phone vibrate just before it stopped working. It run out of battery. Hisako could no longer get help. She had to handle this herself. Her goal was to return, and for that, she had to go to God, which required her to move and run away from the grayish pillar of flesh with comb-like teeth. It was even puking something. After looking at it, she realized. With the train gone, she could see something that she'd lost sight of before. It was a station sign. It glowed white like a lamp, and she could see the hiragana for Kisaragi from there just fine. She jumped off the platform, landed with all her limbs, and began running, ignoring the pain of the impact. She could hear thuds behind her as something soft was puked out on the floor, but she couldn't observe it. Running the rail, running on the rocks, she hurried to the station sign. It looked like this. Tasu Kisaragi Darkness. Looking at how the train went, she'd come from Katasu and traveled towards darkness. However, this left her confused. Katasu, Kisaragi, darkness. What was that? Did Katasu refer to Neno Katasukuni? The world in Japanese myth had the heavens, Takamagahara, the netherworld, Yomi no Kuni, and this world, Ashihara Nakatsukuni. Neno Katasukuni, also known as Neno Kuni, had been the place where Izanagi and Susanoo lived. Due to various circumstances, such as the root part of it, it ended up being considered to be the same place as Yomi no Kuni. The afterlife. Basically hell. Was Katasu hell? But if that was the case, darkness would be heaven. But she barely knew any myths where darkness was good. Which is it? She began running and couldn't stop now. Where did she have to head? She was attacked by the unpleasant feeling again. Of course she would be. The sign had now displayed those disgusting hieroglyphs. She had no idea what it meant now. And behind her... Oh dear. The monster had begun to seem beautiful and lovable to her. That was a mother. A mother beyond all bonds and blood. And an incarnation of motherhood that had manifested here in this world. All that she birthed would be consumed by her, then birthed again. It was an honor and a joy. Horrifying, thank you. The anomaly, still covered in transparent gelatin, had somehow retained a human form. It was summoning Hisako, welcoming her. She would embrace the child with those wet hands and summon her into reincarnation and the greatest pleasures. She almost felt like crying. She wanted to take off her clothing and be purified by the Great Mother, embraced by all. I'm gonna have to do a quick pause here. Sorry if there was a weird cut there. Wasn't able to finish in time, so this is another day. But since I feel I'm close to the end, didn't think it was worth it just cutting it up into 3. Even so, she could bear it. She successfully endured it. After all, she knew. Her discovery made her laugh in a strained, maddened manner. The puzzle she had in her head had finally been solved. Yasunaga-kun's hint was necessary, but its direction was off. Purgatory, Rengoku, Leng. She wasn't Dante, but Randolph Carter. Hisaragi meant moonlike. That meant that it was a place to gather and use power from the distant moon of illusion. The moon's power had been prepared to open up a route into the great darkness. It was the pinnacle of the madness involved in connecting to a device from a universe that rejected the laws of physics. It looked like this simply because she was Japanese and a modern person. The place was basically a kind of hell wrapped in Hisako's imagination. But if you recognize that, if you acknowledge the Necronomicon, Carter, Dreamland, Leng Plateau, Shub-Nugaroth, Cthulhu, if you realize that the many mysterious stories left by H.P. Lovecraft could manifest as a real threat, then didn't that mean this world was on the verge of ending? As if that mattered to her. Hisako was an adult. She knew how to pick out things that weren't good for her and turn a blind eye to the contradictions and survive in a way that was in no way fair. The Hisako who knew the truth could ignore the fear it inspired to deal with the immediate threat. That barely made sense, but it made her pull herself together. She had no reason to hesitate any longer. Her destination wasn't Inokata-sukuni. It was something hidden in there. Katath Station. What a joke. As far as she knew, this was a challenge. It was a place where few could find themselves. She didn't even know if normal people could live there. However, if the something that had led her here, she had a good guess about its identity, had made such a human-like trap, then getting there should be easy. After all, the rules had already been written. But that was when she was assaulted by the worst spell of dizziness and nausea yet. It nearly brought her to her knees. She staggered around like this everyone would catch her. She now understood why Yasunaga had suggested she light a fire, but she wasn't in a situation where she could do it. Would the other phone burn if she shorted its battery? What a pointless thought. The phone had a role to fill. In that case, she would use her minimal mythical knowledge to create a small fire. She opened her notepad, clenched the ball pen linked to it, and struck it against the granite floor at the edge of the stone with wriggling marks of evil all over it. The metallic ball instantly broke, but she didn't mind as long as it lasted long enough for her to finish. It would hold meaning even if made like this, surely. Line, corner, line, corner, line. Watching the transparent creature approaching her, she felt her intellect become overwhelmed by fear and panic. But she still pressed on. This was how it was supposed to look like. A warped pentagram, or a tree-like symbol of divinity. In the middle of it, there was a figure akin to an eye or a flame. It wasn't a powerful weapon. If there was something better, this world would have surely been saved from the fear of Cthulhu by now. It would surely hold no meaning against the Great Mother approaching her. But there were still its children, the unnatural heir here, and the entity controlling the moon lens. It could maybe work on them. She finished carving the Elder Sign. The next moment, the world screamed. It didn't actually deal much damage to this realm itself. However, even a simple needle could bring severe pain if used well. It was especially damaging to those who didn't expect such a retaliation. With a rending sound, things changed. First, it was the air. Perhaps not permanently, but it felt purified. Second, those chasing her writhed and faltered. The Great Mother behind them shook as if enraged, and continued birthing more children. Now was the time. Now was the time to run. She sprinted. I'm going to Katasu Station. The second phone's about to run out of battery too, and I won't be able to contact you again. I trust you. Hisako had logged in after Okek had logged out, because the first phone's battery had run out. After that message, no amount of refreshing the web chat page added anything new. A while later, Hisako was logged out. No longer having any business with the empty chat page, Yasunaga closed the browser. After that, he placed the phone next to his ear. That's probably where she's going.
Understood. Leave the rest to me.
With just that, he closed the phone. As if to escape the librarian advancing in his direction with furrowed eyebrows, Yasunaga logged off the PC and left. There was nothing more he could do beside believe in them. I'm counting on you, God. Hisako ran. He ran along the train tracks, illuminated by a sinister moonlight. Her legs often got caught on the railroad ties, and she fell a lot. Her high heels were broken, but being barefooted would have made things even harder. Her feet hurt so much that she could barely feel her toes. She couldn't keep the tears from her eyes. Eventually, all she could do was stagger forward, but even so, she couldn't stop. She had an urge to look back. She actually thought she had to. For all she knew, she might have lost them completely. However, she knew better than the average person that turning around in such situations was a big mistake. Thus, she just continued walking. She wished to return to the boy who was worried sick about her. She would give him her thanks, as well as making him some eccentric yet delicious food. With just that in mind, she continued walking. This might have continued for an hour or two, maybe even longer. She continued walking, looking at only her legs. She walked. If someone hadn't called out to her, she wouldn't even have realized that she'd already reached her destination. She was now at a shabby, dark station, much like the previous one. The sign there said, Katasu. This place was... Called once again, she looked to her left. There was a concrete platform within reach. And on it, there was a child. A silhouette of a child with a cheap-looking kimono and bobbed hair. The child's voice was androgynous, and not very articulate. The moon was hidden now, and the only sources of light were the sky and the sign. Hisako couldn't see the child's face.
なんでこんなところにいるの?
Why are you here?
ここは行っちゃいけないところだよ。
You aren't supposed to come here.
The voice was innocent, but a bit strict and harsh too.
出してあげるからついてきて。
Huh. Not sure how that got turned back on, or if this is just unique to this particular scene.
I'll let you come out. Come with me.
上がれる?
Can you get up?
The child gave Hisako a hand. She, however, merely stared at it. It was so close, yet she couldn't see past the hand's shadow. A dark child. Could it be that...
I see you're a wise journalist.
The sudden girlish voice made both Hisako and the child turn to face its source. There was a strange-looking figure near the ticket gate. She was clad in bandages, and looked about 16 or 17.
お姉ちゃん、悪いものが来たよ。急いで、逃げなきゃ。
One-chan, we have someone bad here. Hurry! You have to run! One soul per day now to bind. The mists rise away again.
With that, Hisako instantly knew who she had to trust. That was the song that Chiemi Serizawa had taught her back in Fujiyoshi. Ignoring the child, she ran to the platform, climbed up, and hid behind the girl.
You have done well.
You're Yasunaga-kun's...
Silence.
逆らうの?
You'll resist.
That was no longer a child's voice. It wasn't even human. The child had been replaced by a vortex of darkness that looked somewhat humanoid. However, that wasn't true darkness. It was a chaos that consumed all, even light. For a moment, Hisako thought that she'd seen 3 shining spots on its face, but she instantly looked away. If this thing wanted it, it could have prevented her from doing that. It could even crush her sanity completely. That was just how big of a deal this thing was.
This is my servant. It is agreed that you cannot lay a hand on her, no?
嘘だ。
You lie.
It will become truth.
そうやってこれから幾度邪魔をするのか?
Will you get in my way every time?
There will not be a next time.
Yes, after all.
お前はあの場所で我に
Back there, you were a weak god that had to follow my every whim. You were a pathetically weak god looked down on by even the wolves and the snake.
弱い神だもの。
You simply cannot defy me.
Yet I rose again.
そうだね。
Yes, so please don't return here. Just stay on your mountain.
Of course.
I will allow it.
I appreciate it.
Perhaps I should take Yudai Hashimoto instead. Hisako almost stopped breathing. Why would that name come up here? There was no reason to ask. She knew it all. Please. No. Then come. How selfish. Do you think lives are cheap? That was Hisako's line. However, she didn't have the guts to talk back against this dark, crawling chaos.
Why her?
She is a cursed soul that has been tortured and torn apart in the mists of dreams countless times. That makes her a fitting meal for darkness. I intended to reach her with my darkness, but I let her escape in Kisaragi.
have him instead.
The unnerving girl turned around to the ticket gates. It was hard to see, but there was a silhouette there. It was a very old man. But why did it seem like there was a dagger in his throat?
This is a truly wicked soul. He will surely be useful to you.
Probably.
But it's not a fair exchange. What? Let's do this. You like darkness, don't you? I will show you lots of it from now on. Huh? That's not what we agreed on. If she will not become my sustenance, then she can at least be my entertainment. Let her lament the shortness of her stand of fate and struggle to prolong it. A god is supposed to test people, right? One-chan?
She couldn't say anything back.
Know your place. I understand. Let us go, woman.
The girl dragged her past the old man who struggled for breath and out of the station into a dark road. As Yasunaga stood alone in the campus without purpose, the cell phone he'd borrowed rang. It made him jump. It was a call from a public phone. Could it be that... Hello? It's me, Hisako Mamiya. Are you okay? Where are you? I guess I'm okay. I'm not missing a limb or anything, but... Man, I'm dead tired. Where are you? At home? In Okutama. Huh? I just got dropped onto this mountain. Your god told me to handle the rest by myself. Don't you think she's a bit harsh? Well, maybe, but she's a good god. Looks like it. I didn't have to wander for long until I found a human settlement. I'll come back in a taxi. A taxi? Won't that cost a lot? I don't want to ride trains right now. I understand. Anyway, I'll come to you. Please rest where it's safe. Huh? 3 hours later, a taxi approached the Okutama bench Hisako Mamiya had been idling on. Mamiya-san! The young man who got off instantly ran over to her. He really did come. Her whisper made her realize just how tired she was. However, there were no signs of all the falling and vomiting she did in Kisaragi Station. Her heels were okay too, and the ball pen wasn't broken. Her cell phones were still charged as well. I'm glad you're okay. Honestly, I still can't believe all this. By this, she meant the experience itself. And the fact that she'd escaped from that being. But I don't think I could have made it back if not for you. Thanks, Yasunaga Oribe-kun. It's nothing. By the way, do you have money? I took a taxi from the station to here, and I'm completely broke now. She sighed, remembering that the boy was the definition of penniless. It was a valid problem to have, but it didn't make her feel good. She staggered a bit as she got up, but it was only due to her walk down the mountain and mental fatigue. Perhaps she'd lost several of her sanity points. The thing had said that it would show her even more darkness. She wanted to brush it off as a joke, like it only said that to menace and ridicule her. That was the kind of being it was. Anyway, let's go back. Yes. How, though? The driver says he's okay with both the station and the direct route. I'm not sure I want to ride a train. I can stand guard for you. The words caught Hisako off guard. I guess that's fine then. Well, trains are less stressful anyway, right? Hmm? What's wrong? He was just having a moment of weakness. This boy was really dependable, but he really wasn't her type. Hell, he was underage too and a lot younger than her. It'd be a crime. Oh, by the way, can you come to Yasumisu soon? Why? Our god said she did a lot to help you, and that she needs to meet you. The charm she'd given me isn't quite enough, apparently, so she'll do some more on that front too. That reminded Hisako that she'd become her follower. Do you have any weird rituals? No, not anymore. I really am interested in your village. Can you let me look into it a bit more? I'm actually a qualified curator. Oh, that reminds me. About the college recommendation. Oh, there was that too. Are you okay with going to Shikoku by car? You could leave tomorrow evening, after you finish your schedule. I'm fine with that. Then I guess that's when I'll appoint you to... You'll go straight to Shikoku, and return straight to Fujiyoshi. That'd be easier for you, right? You know what? I'll drive you there myself. It's a bit cramped, but I have a car. Huh? You'd be doing way too much for me. Don't worry. I was planning to do shopping I couldn't do today anyway. And she didn't want to be alone. Then I guess I'll accept your offer. By the way... Hmm? I'm thinking of unraveling the history of my homeland with my own hands. So I thought that maybe I could do it together with you. Interesting. Well, it sure sounds like we'll be working together for a while. Yasunaga began to have trouble putting his thoughts into words, which made Hisako tilt her head. What's wrong? God also mentioned another thing. To complete the conversion, you could marry into... Nothing. Don't worry about it. I asked her to prepare another method. It's okay. Seeing the boy turn beet red, she felt that he really was still a child. She found it charming, and it was a perfectly healthy impression to have. Anyway, let's go. The driver's waiting. Yeah. Okutama, I heard that there's a good ramen place near the station, so maybe we should get something there. Oh. Ooh. A pro knows her stuff, I guess. But I don't have any money. You're my savior. I'll treat you. But that's... I can't really refuse at this point, can I? Then sure, I'll have some. They got in the taxi, and as Hisako listened to Yasunaga give directions to the driver, she finally relaxed. She was resolved to feed him her own food tomorrow. That sentiment was even stronger than it was this afternoon, but that was because he'd saved her life, surely. They'd then go to Shikoku. It wouldn't be just a drive, but a real trip. And then they'd visit his home. What a packed schedule. She was excited, tense, and strangely uneasy about it. I hope nothing happens. She'd always yearned to experience something blatantly occult and paranormal, but now she knew it was something to enjoy from a distance. Hisako suddenly wanted to see that informant, Haruaki Fusaishi, again. That insolent man had gone through a mystery she hadn't, and she felt she could bond with him over their strange experiences. It was high time she made an appointment with him, so she resolved to make one at all costs. By the way, Mamiya-san, as the driver began taking them to the station, Yasunaga took something out and gave it to Hisako. What? A photo? Yes, this thing was found in a ruin in Yasumisu. Apparently it was left behind by human sacrifices. I've never seen a culture like this anywhere else. I think it would be a good subject to research. Mamiya-san. This isn't your god, is it? No. It's a god that no longer exists. Oh, I see. She felt like she'd just seen a whole new face to the world. The beast's mask with 3 red eyes carved on it made Hisako think of the darkness looming ahead of her, causing her to feel lethargic and look up at the taxi's ceiling. That one was a good one. Oh, I enjoyed that one a lot. Very compelling and very creepy. But yes, with that, that is the end of this episode. Thank you all so very much for watching. Hope you have a wonderful time zone wherever you are, and as always, please do take care of yourselves and each other. Doodaloo-hoo!